Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Newstos. So, Gamescom is right around the corner as we lead up to its opening night live event next week on August 23rd, and it does sound like some rather interesting games will indeed be revealed here. As we talked about last week, Geoff Keighley himself has already started to hype up this event, and we already have a couple of confirmed games here, which we'll briefly go over today, but most interestingly, it appears now like a big exclusive for either Xbox or the PlayStation 5 is currently being teased. Now, for which platform is a bit of a mystery, but we'll go over that today, as well as several new games that was revealed thanks to that THQ Nordic event. It was actually a pretty good showcase overall, so lots and lots of stuff to get into today. Before we get started today, though, I have to do it, but yes, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely hit that button below, and also go ahead and join the notification gang while you're at it. That way, you'll be one of the first to get a chance to watch my latest video as soon as I release it. And hey, I do notice that some of you all like to race for that first comment, so the notification gang, yeah, they have a little bit of an advantage with that. Nonetheless, though, let's just go and jump into the video, starting off with Sonic Frontiers. Now, this has been a rather interesting game to follow because when they first teased this game, there was originally a lot of excitement as it's Sonic's first big step into more of an open world experience. And there is this hope that it's going to take Sonic to new heights once again. It sounds great on paper, if anything, but then it got its full gameplay reveal back in June, and that's kind of when everything just changed. Now, instead of all of this excitement that we saw before, there's more of this looming concern. It does seem a little discombobulated with its assets and just with its overall design, so there have been these mixed reactions regarding its gameplay. And well, now that's bled over to Sega's investors. Following Sega's Q1 briefing, an investor flat out asked them if they plan to delay Sonic Frontiers following fan feedback to improve it. And well, Sega's response was quite simple. They responded by saying, quote unquote, "We do not consider postponing the launch at this point." So I mean, there you have it. Sega's committed to its release, which means it will indeed release sometime in 2022. As of this moment, we don't have an exact release date yet, though we do know for a fact that it will be at the Gamescom opening live event. Again, that will be on August 23rd. So with that, I do imagine that we will get its official release date there, and hopefully it has a good showing that will excite fans just a little bit more than what we've seen thus far. I've said it before, but I mean, I'm not necessarily sold on what they've shown so far, but I still am optimistic. I grew up playing games like Sonic Adventure 2, and I absolutely loved that game. That was such an amazing game on the Sega Dreamcast, and I would be thrilled, just absolutely thrilled to see Sonic Frontiers kind of resurrect how fans regard its 3 iterations. I feel like there is this stigma around this franchise that they just can't make a good 3D Sonic game anymore. But let me know what you all think about this game from what we've seen so far. Do you like what you see or not? Now, something else seems to be brewing over in PlayStation land. We actually talked about this last week, but Sony recently put together a PlayStation Games for PC website, which, I mean, that's interesting alone. But what made this even more complexing was 2 specific questions that they answered on that website, which seemingly suggested that they could be adding PSN integration to their PC games sometime here in the near future. Now, what that means is that if you buy a game like Uncharted on Steam as an example, you could then connect your PSN account that would give you certain benefits within the PlayStation ecosystem, such as trophy support. So that's actually a pretty good inclusion if this is something that they do. The reason that we're talking about all of this again today, though, is that more evidence has popped up that Sony indeed is looking to integrate PSN with their PC games. This was spotted in their most recent PC release, being Spider-Man, which, by the way, has been very, very successful so far. Big congrats on their early success. But back on topic here, fans have since been digging through some of its files, and there has been a few noteworthy discoveries. One is actually a reference for a multiplayer mode that could possibly allow for PvE and PvP. I mean, co-op Spider-Man, that definitely seems like a cool thing to me. But then there's also multiple references that contain quote-unquote linked PSN account. Yeah, it's not overly difficult to figure out what that could possibly mean. And again, this just kind of lines up with what we discussed before. It absolutely does sound like Sony's gearing up to bring PSN to their PC games. And it looks like in this case, they just didn't get it out in time for Spider-Man's release. Sometime, hopefully soon though. But at the end of the day, Sony's interest in PC gaming is a very real thing, and we're only seeing more proof of that as we go forward. Without a doubt, we're going to see a lot more PlayStation PC games throughout this generation. I think we are going to start to see more PlayStation 5 games head over to PC sometime in the near future. Maybe games like Returnal. We've actually got some hints at that already. That was in that NVIDIA GeForce leak. But I think that we are going to start to see more of those PlayStation 5 ports. Now, I will say that I don't think that PlayStation is going to release their games day and date on PC anytime soon. But, maybe a year after the release on PlayStation 5, they will start to bring them over to PC. Which, I think that's a very smart thing. They are having a lot of success here, as we are once again seeing with Spider-Man. Let's go ahead and talk about what's happening over at Gamescom, though. It is increasingly starting to look like this will be a very worthwhile showcase, as a few games have already been confirmed to be here, such as Sonic Frontiers, as we talked about earlier, then also Return to Monkey Island. I know there's a lot of longtime Monkey Island fans out there. And then High on Life has also been confirmed to be here as well. I'm actually personally really excited to see that game, as I think that it looks hilariously fantastic. But of course, there's also going to be some big surprises here, as Geoff Keighley has already teased himself. Well, coincidentally, it also appears that one of Geoff Keighley's well-known friends is also teasing something just ahead of this showcase, and that's none other than the legend himself, Hideo Kojima. Yeah, now technically, this could just be nothing more than a simple coincidence, but what's happening here is that Hideo Kojima posted over on Twitter, tentatively finishing editing for now. Now, at first, this tweet might just seem innocent and everything, but there's actually some interesting things happening here, especially when you start to consider the timing of all of this. As you can see in the pictures, he appears to be working in a video editing software with multiple video layers. This could actually signify that maybe, just maybe, he's editing some type of new trailer here. Now again, with the timing of all of this, and the fact that Hideo Kojima and Geoff Keighley are well-known friends, Kojima has even repeatedly been one of Keighley's biggest supporters, revealing several of his trailers at his showcases, so would it necessarily be a big stretch to believe that he could possibly be at Gamescom to reveal his next big game? No, this very much could actually be a real thing, and that's why we're seeing just so much speculation with this tweet. If that is the case, though, that's where things start to get even more interesting, because there's reason to believe that he could actually reveal one of two games here. Now, the first of which has already been confirmed, his Xbox game. This was confirmed back at the Xbox Bethesda showcase. Microsoft was very happy to reveal they had entered a partnership to develop a game with Hideo Kojima. As to exactly what this game is, though, that's a little bit more of a mystery. From what we do currently know, it's supposedly some type of project that takes advantage of cloud-based technology, which I think that will be interesting to see. I can only imagine just what type of insane things Kojima can come up with using a new technology like this. But that's the thing, we might not just have to leave it up to our imagination for too long, as a Kojima production game by the name of Overdose did leak just ahead of that Xbox Bethesda showcase back in June. Tom Henderson, which has been a very reliable leaker, posted a big report that describes seeing early footage of what appears to be a third-person horror game that will feature the actress from Death Stranding that played as Mama. Kojima Productions themselves even requested for that report to be taken down, which that does add some credibility that this was indeed a real leak. So, if this actually is the game that Xbox is partnering up on, its development could be further along than originally expected, with a complete reveal right around the corner. If there's already a gameplay leak and everything, then again, its reveal very possibly could happen sometime here soon. Maybe it just wasn't completely ready to be revealed back in June. Either way, we all wanted to see what Hideo Kojima could do with a full horror game after that legendary PT demo, and now, after all of these years, we might finally get that chance maybe as early as Gamescom. However, that's not the only possibility here, because there's also another rumor floating around that seemingly has some real steam behind it, and that's for a Death Stranding sequel. See, what's happening here is that the actor Norman Reedus, who played as the protagonist in Death Stranding, has indicated on several different occasions in public interviews that they're working on a sequel. And then Kojima later on, he did respond to that statement on Twitter, jokingly telling Norman Reedus to go back to his private room. So, there does seem to be some real evidence of both of these games existing in some shape or form. Of course, we have confirmation of the Xbox game. That is an absolute fact. But with everything that's happening, honestly, I really wouldn't doubt at all if Kojima is actually working on an exclusive game for both Xbox as well as PlayStation. Which, I'm all for personally. I'm a big fan of Kojima myself, and if they're signing contracts with both platform makers, that means the studio is in a pretty good position. Nonetheless, though, we might actually get a full-blown reveal for one of these games at Gamescom based on this tease, but let me know. Do you think that there's actually a legitimate reason to speculate that he could be here? And if so, which game are you most hoping to see? Overdose or Death Stranding 2? Speaking of showcases though, THQ Nordic dropped their digital showcase where they revealed several new games and also gave us plenty of new updates for some of their already confirmed titles. I actually genuinely do like what THQ Nordic has been doing here in recent years. They do have a lot of games in development, and they also have a lot of variety as well, which I think were both highlighted at this specific showcase. They did showcase 15 different games, several of which I think looks highly interesting. Now, what I'll kind of do here is that I'll go over some of the big highlights that was at this showcase, and then after that, I'll briefly summarize the rest. But yes, we did finally get a gameplay reveal for SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake. This is a follow-up for Rehydrated, which, by the way, is a great 3D platformer, and I think that if you like that game, you have to be thrilled about what you're seeing here in the Cosmic Shake. It does make several nods to the original game, but there's also some big changes as well. It almost kind of reminds me a little bit of Mario Galaxy and then Banjo-Kazooie to an extent. You can see how in each level, SpongeBob takes on a completely new form that you'll recognize from the show, but depending on the form, it does appear that he will have some different abilities. That there's kind of what reminds me of Banjo-Kazooie, but I think what they're showing so far looks very good. Unfortunately, we still don't have a release date or anything like that, but again, I think fans will be very happy with this specific gameplay update. They also revealed some gameplay for Outcast 2, and I have seen some excitement for this game online. I never actually played the original myself, so I can't really speak to that, but it does seem like there are some fans out there that just absolutely adore that game, and well, now here, they did give us a gameplay update. I think it does look pretty good in terms of its gameplay as well. They showed some different cool abilities, he can fly around, and there's some solid-looking third-person shooting in this game. I think after seeing this trailer, it does have my interest, and it might be worth paying attention to. It's also noteworthy that it was only confirmed for the Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and then the PC. So this is yet another game kind of ditching those last generation consoles. This does seem to be a trend as of recent, and I think in 2023, we're going to see a lot less of these Xbox One and PlayStation 4 games. Now, they did also announce that they're bringing back Alone in the Dark, and this one looks, I think, really good. This is a third-person survival horror game, which, I mean, we got a lot of those incoming, as we'll kind of talk about here in just a little bit, but this one's grabbing a lot of attention, and I think for good reason. It's got a very attractive art style to it. I love the lighting and the atmosphere in this game, and the story seems very well written. In fact, it's actually coming from the same writer who worked on Soma and Amnesia, both of which are well-regarded survival horror games. So, I mean, if you like horror games, first off, you are eating very well, but I do think that this is an easy game to just kind of be excited for. There was one new IP here, though, that really caught my attention, and that's Recreation. It's a combination of racing, wrecking, and then creation. It does feel like that there might be some hidden mechanics within this trailer, and I'll be interested to see how all that works out. But basically, you're given the ability to create your very own crazy racetracks, and I just like the overall design of this game. The tracks itself kind of reminds me a little bit of Forza Horizon Hot Wheels, and that's actually a great thing because that's a brilliant game. But there definitely seems to be some really interesting aspects to Recreation, and I definitely think that we need more of these new creative racing games, and maybe, just maybe, Recreation can be that. If not, they also have another creative racing game, Stuntfest, where you can shift from a vehicle to a person to take advantage of different platforming scenarios as an example. It's pretty cool, and it's once again more on that creative side of things. However, that though was my main highlights from this showcase, but there were still plenty of other games here as well, such as another gameplay update for Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, which is set to release in just a couple weeks on August 30th. I mean, if you like the first game, the sequel looks really good, both visually and in terms of its gameplay. They're also remaking the first Gothic game, which is an old 90s RPG. Again, they're exploring that rich catalog that they have, and here they decided they were going to show its updated visuals. It is coming to the Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and PC, so another game that's kind of ditched the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. Space for Sale is also on the way, which could be interesting for fans of management sims. In Space for Sale, you get to explore the galaxy, build property, and ensure its inhabitants are satisfied. That could be a sneaky hit when it eventually releases. They also showed various PC-oriented games such as Jagged Alliance 3, which is a strategy RPG, The Valiant, which is an RTS, Tempest Rising, which is a military RTS, and then Knights of Honor, which is more akin to games like the Sid Meier's Civilization series. They also have a new hunting game, Way of the Hunter, and a new wrestling game as well, AEW Fight Forever. They even teased a new South Park game here. So, I mean, like I said before, they do have a lot of games in development, and they have a lot of variety here as well. All in all, though, I thought this was a very well done event, and there were plenty of games here that I think fans definitely need to keep an eye on. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, and I think this was a tough one, but I asked you all, with so many horror games coming soon, which are you most excited for? And as you can see here, most of you all are excited for the Callisto Protocol with 40% of the votes. Second place was Resident Evil 4 Remake with 26%. Then you have Dead Space Remake with 17% of the votes, and Alan Wake 2 at 13%. Now, like I said, I think this was a tough one because I think all 4 of these games are pretty exciting. But I can definitely understand the excitement for Callisto Protocol. I've talked about this game several times in the past. The gameplay trailer for Callisto Protocol really impressed me. I think from what they've shown so far, this game looks absolutely outstanding. It is coming from the creator of Dead Space, Glenn Schofield. So we already know for an absolute fact that he can make a good sci-fi horror. And I mean, just based on that trailer, yeah, there's definitely a lot to be excited for when it comes to Callisto Protocol. And that right there is kind of the thing when it comes to Resident Evil 4 Remake and Dead Space Remake. We know the original games were good, and I mean, especially when it comes to Resident Evil 4, you're talking about remaking one of the most popular horror games ever made. So obviously there's going to be a lot of excitement for these 2 games, though I was a little saddened that Alan Wake 2 didn't get more votes than what it did. I think a lot of the reason for that is just because it's a little further out and we haven't really seen gameplay for it yet. But I mean, just based off of the first Alan Wake game, that game was so exceptional. Probably one of my favorite games back on the Xbox 360. Loved that game. I loved its story. I'm really personally excited for Alan Wake 2 a lot. Plus, I mean, Remedy Entertainment, they just time and time again just make such great single-player games with enticing stories. So I'd say that's probably the one that I'm going to vote for just because I am a big fan of the original. But honestly, I'm excited for all 4 of these games. Callisto Protocol looks outstanding. Resident Evil 4 Remake looks outstanding. Dead Space Remake, again, looks outstanding. And Alan Wake 2, we haven't really seen much of it yet, but I think it's going to be outstanding. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.